Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Everyone's had a headache from time to time, but anyone who has experienced a migraine headache certainly understands the true misery that a migraine can bring on. So today I want to talk a little bit about different nutrients that may be supportive if you do have the tendency to succumb to a migraine. I am Amanda Williams, MD, MPH, and let's get right to it. Let's talk about migraines. I remember many years ago reading a study where it said in the UK that there was 86 million work days lost every single year because of headaches and looking at migraines specifically. And so from that, I thought, well, I wonder if it's that high in the UK, what in the world is it here in the US? And it's estimated that in the United States, like 160 million work days lost every single year due to migraine. We know that migraines are a major problem in this country. And we also understand that when it comes to traditional medical approaches, there's still many things that are unknown. And many people who have migraines have maybe never even been diagnosed, because when it comes to certified headache specialists in the United States, there's not really too many of them. When you think of the millions of Americans that suffer from, and it's estimated somewhere about 40 million Americans get migraines, there's roughly, less than 1,000 doctors that are specialized in migraines. So it tells you that there is clearly a problem, and many of those issues come down to really fully understanding what triggers the migraine. Why does this happen? And we know that they are recurrent and they are debilitating. And there are some people where a migraine can hit and it lasts for a couple of days. It is generally accompanied by other factors, nausea, sensitivity to sound or light. Some people say, oh, well, maybe it's because you were stressed out and you didn't get adequate sleep, or maybe it's a particular food that you ate. There's so many unknowns with migraines, but we do know that there is a strong hormonal component to it, especially when it comes to women. And having, hormone testing done is part of trying to get to that real, true root cause. We know that when it comes to conventional medical treatments for migraines, it's usually going to be, looking at NSAIDs. So the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. There's the triptan drugs, which came out many years ago, and they come with their own unwanted side effects, including significant cardiovascular events that can potentially happen if someone is on a triptan medication. Certainly corticosteroids, opioids. There's a lot of different things that doctors will try to use when someone has chronic migraines. Some people are put on preventive treatments, even things like beta blockers, which are generally for someone with a heart condition such as high blood pressure. They will give someone propranolol, for example, to try to use to stop the migraine from actually occurring. People have tried using different antidepressants or anticonvulsants. So there's so much that still lives in that world of unknowns. And like I said, some people say, oh, well, it's something in your food. And each person is individually different. So yes, could it be that, particular nitrites in food or in wines that are triggering someone to have a migraine? Of course, there can be that. Is it that high stress can trigger this? Yes, but that's usually into that category of a tension headache as opposed to a full-blown migraine. Is it disruption in sleep patterns? Is there a problem with a melatonin deficiency? Of course, these are all areas that have been looked at as potential ways to basically intercept the onset of a migraine. If you know, okay, certain foods are definitely a trigger, okay, then we know that avoidance of that food. If we know that there is a problem in terms of the sleep cycle, okay, we can work on that. But we also have to not overlook nutritional deficiencies as well as hormonal imbalances. And we certainly see this more common in women when it comes to that hormonal aspect to it. So having estradiol levels tested, having the DHEA levels tested are always going to be incredibly advantageous. Now, we know that there are many natural interventions that may be beneficial when it comes to targeting migraines. Coenzyme Q10, for example, has been looked at as kind of being this go-to in the world of migraines, especially in the natural world. We know that coenzyme Q10, ubiquinol, blocks the transmission of migraine pain, and it does so by actually reducing levels of the pain-creating compound. So human clinical trials have shown that CoQ10 can actually reduce the frequency of migraines as well as the duration. So if someone actually does get a migraine, that it doesn't last as long. And the way that it's actually doing that is by targeting that peptide. So lowering levels of peptide in the brain, and that's what's associated with that pain as well as the inflammation. So this is why it's a new area of research and a really interesting area of research. So the particular specific peptide that they've been able to link with migraines and the pain associated is called calcitonin gene-related peptide, so CGRP. Not that you specifically need to know that, but there's been a lot of new things in the news lately with new medications, and you see different celebrities that are endorsing different drugs for migraines. And I always think to myself, they still don't talk about the hormonal components. They still don't talk about the deficiencies of magnesium, for example, that might be linked to this. They don't talk about deficiencies of B vitamins. They don't talk about the potential of a methylation problem going on in the body, which in the natural world, we've been looking at these things for many years, understanding that things like vitamin B2, riboflavin, for example, very, very important when it comes to maintaining the mitochondrial energy production within the brain. So that's within that neuron. We understand that magnesium deficiency, which we know that over 50% of Americans are deficient in magnesium, has been linked to many of the different processes that have been implicated with the pathophysiology of migraines. They have done studies where when they give people who get chronic severe migraines magnesium, it starts to lessen the amount of migraines and the severity of those migraines. As I mentioned, melatonin, for example, we know that if there is that sleep cycle, so once again, looking along that hormonal pathway, if melatonin is a problem, oftentimes this can help to impede the number of migraine attacks or improve the symptoms if someone actually is currently having a migraine. We can look at 5-HTP, which is 5-hydroxytryptophan. So once again, working along that pathway of serotonin and melatonin, because the potential for low serotonin levels and the association for migraine development is not fully understood, but it's definitely something which researchers are looking at, which is why oftentimes they say, oh, well, maybe if they take an antidepressant. Most antidepressants are going to be trying to target serotonin levels and trying to help to stabilize those. So if low serotonin is a problem, then obviously taking something like 5-HTP, which is going to help the body naturally make more serotonin, it makes sense that that's why 5-HTP has been shown to be a very good option for folks who suffer from migraines. We know that if the serotonin is impacted, then hence the melatonin is going to be impacted. So when people come to me and they say, I've suffered from migraines for many years, what are some natural things that I can be trying? I always go to the basics first. We go with, the methyl B. So having a good methylated B vitamin, so activated B vitamin, going with coenzyme Q10, so the ubiquinol with NADH, because we want to really be able to enhance that energy production within the brain. We need to make sure that we are balancing out magnesium. This is also very, very important. If we have low magnesium and we can link that to many of the pathophysiology behind the migraines, then clearly we know that we need to make sure that we are maintaining good, healthy levels. So methyl B, we've got our ubiquinol. We, of course, have our magnesium. We can look at 5-HTP. We can look at melatonin, but we can also look at other nutrients such as SAMe, for example. And if we're taking the methyl B formulation, it would make sense to also take the SAMe. So looking at those biochemical pathways in terms of detoxification. So these are just some natural ways to approach migraines. I always say have comprehensive hormone levels tested if you have in the past had migraines, but definitely just the basics. CoQ10, magnesium, methyl B, melatonin, 5-HTP, SAMe. These are all different nutrients that may really help to make an impact and help to stabilize the brain functionality, again, create that energy, help to support vasodilation, all of these different things that we certainly have been able to link towards the development as well as the severity of migraines. So that is all that I have for you for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning into the Invite Health podcast. Remember, you can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Now, do make sure that you subscribe and you leave us a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health, and we will see you next time for another episode of the Invite Health podcast.